You may know already that Hertz, the car rental company, decided to sell off a huge amount of their Tesla cars, big amount of their fleet. So they were all Teslas. Most of them will be sold by other companies, I suspect. But they're actually selling some of them through dealers themselves. But still, when you can go buy one at a good price, I think it makes really good sense. Listen to this. The prices are pretty good, I think. So at the end of the last year in October, EVs counted for 11% of the whole of Hertz's fleet. So they are now selling off a third of their EV fleet to use that money, so they say, to buy ICE vehicles. Bit of a ballsy thing. They put that on the internet, and they've announced it, so it's definitely true. And the main reason is that they say that Teslas have too many annoying problems, and the wait times to get repairs done is too long, and too many small niggles are going wrong, like the charge door's not opening, or the technology keeps failing, or it just doesn't integrate as easily as a car with a simple key would, where you don't have to log on to something like that and there's not too much to go. That's what they say. And I think maybe in the context of a car rental company, it might not be as smooth to own one as, like, I don't know, let's say a Ford Focus. I don't know what cars rental companies might have all over the world, but something like a Ford or something like that, right? And I understand the concept. Maybe it just might not be as easy for them as rental companies, but it can't be that bad, can it? Surely they seem like Tesla's a pretty reasonable cars to own. They're pretty standard, so they are basically all listed. All of the cars for sale under $25,000 and some of them are even as low as $20,500, and then you can still get the used EV tax in the USA. So that takes it down to $16,500 you could walk out with a Tesla, which is pretty good, I think. And there's an article as well online where a chap goes to have a look at one for sale and to see what you get for your money. 16.5 grand for one. So before I carry on, thank you very much for tuning in. I'm Ben Alexander. This is me. He's often in my videos, and he's always lounging around. He's not always a lazy cat, but he always looks it on my videos. But he does get up for 5 hours a day and goes outside and then comes back in. So anyway, I make EV news videos every day. Please consider subscribing if you're not already. Even if you do watch my videos but you're not subscribed, please consider it. Because most people aren't. I think 90-something% of you don't subscribe. And that's okay. You don't have to. So if I seem a little bit like I'm about to pass out, it's basically because I've been feeling super dizzy for the last 24 hours. And if I do indeed pass out, I will promise to leave it in and I'll not cut it out for you. And I think in fairness as well, with the Vodafone 3G switch off, if you haven't heard of this, it's basically criminal what they're doing. It's just like I think there's Optus and Telstra in Australia, and now Vodafone. So basically, I can't even call myself an ambulance. That's how bad it is. So I didn't realise how important 3G was, but it turns out that most of our phones, still use the 3G network to make calls. Not for internet, just for making calls. So when they turn that off, our phones won't even make any call or emergency calls. And the type of 4G VoLTE or LTE or Volt that my phone uses, it's only a 3-year-old phone. It's quite swanky, I think, still. Is not compatible with the type of LTE that Vodafone use. So just as a heads up, it's quite serious when you suddenly don't have access to your phone anymore, not even for emergencies. And it was all over the news about this a while ago, and people couldn't make emergency calls, and then the networks were saying, yeah, you definitely can, you can't. And calling emergency is the same as calling someone else, but you're just calling the emergency number. It's still a call from your phone. So without a doubt, people will have been having big issues, or quite probably some people have died because of this, I reckon. So it's an unnecessary switch off of 3G. It doesn't really cost anything to just keep it going. So I think they really should do that, especially when it's such an important part of our infrastructure in 2024, as we can see now. because they're just flicking the switches and turning them off, and all the towers are going down, and now people are, you know, thinking, well, my phone's not worked for 3 days. That was me. So anyway, back to it. So these cars for sale are basically mostly with over 100,000 miles on the clock. So that's, I don't know, 180,000 kilometers or something. Things like the damaged steering wheels, damaged mats, door elbow rest, you know, where you put your elbows there, etc. Things like that will have gone a bit bad, you know, to some degree. There'll be signs of wear. There'll be a fair bit of fast charging, DC fast charging going on as well in their lifetime, I reckon. But regardless, if you wanted one outside of this offer from Hertz, then I think they're probably going to be around, you know, 30, 35 grand, and that's a lot of money compared to what you can get it for right now. So it's obviously a bit of a bargain. So what could be the cons of getting one? This is a question I wanted to kind of briefly skim over. So like I said, they haven't been loved. Most Teslas have been loved. Not these ones, probably. So the interior is likely to be a bit more worn, have signs of wear. The battery may be in less good condition, because probably the first thing people do when they get in a Tesla is just think, oh, let's put my foot down. And, you know, they just traffic light race them for a few hours and then drop it back off, basically. That sort of thing will have happened a lot more frequently. But, you know, I have a lot more confidence in batteries from Tesla these days. So I reckon, honestly, 100,000 miles, I reckon you're still going to get 90% of the original capacity, potentially more. It's a cheap Tesla, so I wouldn't worry about it. This stuff is not overly serious, I think, when you're paying 16,500 for one. I think you can deal with a bit of wear and tear on the steering wheel, you know. I think most people could. Just enjoy it, I think, for what it is, and you know, you don't have to spend way more on it to get a Tesla Model 3. You have an opportunity to buy one, I think. So if you've ever driven a Tesla as well with high mileage, basically the same as one that is 2 or 3 years old, it's pretty much the same. They do hold up incredibly well. You know, kind of like Toyota-esque. They really do. You can drive a Toyota with 100,000 miles, still drives beautiful. So if you have the option to get one with LFP chemistry in the batteries, you won't go far wrong. I think that will help with the capacity, but also the resale value. So probably preference that if you can. I'm not sure if they really factored that in when they just chucked them up on the, you know, at the dealers for sale at their prices. Probably if you're concerned about the wear and tear on the inside, budget $1,000 or $2,000 for you to go get some new trims or just seat covers, some big fluffy seat covers and some dice or something on the mirror, and you know, class it up a little bit. Maybe probably a good detail would do it as well, inside, outside, I reckon. What do you reckon to that? I think so. So I've mentioned before about Tesla reliability, and it really isn't so bad these days, honestly. Lots of people are driving around, you know, 100,000 miles with literally no issues. But I think obviously before 2009, they were kind of riddled with issues, like the battery fuse, the pyro fuse, I think it's called. That would always pop on them quite often, or too often, I think. The main screen in the middle would break because it would often overheat and short the life of it out because it would often overheat. And so now they've actually connected it to the liquid cooling system, which I think is like a badass way of fixing that problem, just connecting it to the, you know, to glycol or whatever. So the battery charge wouldn't open. The door, you know, at the back, that wouldn't open. Sometimes the handles wouldn't come out. I think I watched a couple of videos, 2 videos actually, where someone, and they were both talking about the first 100 or 120,000 miles, and both of them had, I think one person had 3 handles replaced, the other had 4, and they were like $1,000 US each. So that was really kind of an issue, I think, for like the Model S in 2014 or something. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's my understanding of it. They are all seemingly sorted now, and we don't often hear about them, these issues now at all. Obviously, you know, if you're in a Facebook group, even if you're on a Toyota Facebook group, you'll hear of every problem under the sun, and you'll think that these cars are terrible every time someone has any problem. And I think it can feel as though there are heaps more issues than there really are, and I don't think that's the case. You know, sometimes like these groups on Facebook might have 70,000 members, and once or twice a day someone comments and says something happened. I think that's fine, you know. So thank you for watching. Feel free to comment underneath if you have any thoughts, anything at all. And yeah, please consider giving the video a like or subscribing.